in these orangutans.
Wow.
Aren't they magnificent?
Yeah, they are.
Hi, I'm Corey Knatzer.
And I'm Brooklyn Matheny, and today we are studying the Sumatran orangutans. And our ethology question is,
how does the activity of the male and female orangutan differ throughout the day?
And we think the male orangutan is going to be more active throughout the day than the female.
Orangutans have many characteristics. Orangutans have a characteristic ape-like shape, shaggy reddish fur, and grasping hands and feet. Their powerful arms are stronger and longer than their legs and can reach 2 meters in length, long enough to touch their ankles when they stand. There are several different characteristics between the two subspecies of orangutans, and it has been recently suggested that they may be separate species. The Borneo male has relatively large cheek pads, a tremendous laryngeal sac, and a square-shaped face. The Sumatran male has small pads and a laryngeal sac, a ginger-colored mustache, a pronounced beard, and a diamond-shaped face. Individuals can also be distinguished chromosomally, biochemically, and by their cranial characteristics.
Orangutans are semi-solitary species, but remain, to some degree, somewhat social. Flanged adult male orangutans are the most solitary of all orangutans, age and sex classes. Wild orangutan fathers play no direct role in the upbringing of their offspring. Non-receptive adult females associate with their young with other adult females and with adolescents who are not necessarily their own, and generally avoid mature males. The mother-young relationship lasts for many years, whereas the time spent with other orangutans is relatively short. Adolescent females travel together, especially when age differences are minimal. Male-to-male competition for access to sexually receptive females is a major factor in orangutan adaptation. Flanged adult males use their pendulous sacs as a resonating chamber for the long call, parts of which sound like a loud roar. The male orangutan long call seems to play an important role in repelling male rivals and advertising availability to sexually receptive females. Adult male orangutans are intolerant of each other, and the encounter between two flanged adult males usually results in either aggression or avoidance.
The orangutan diet is made up of bark, leaves, flowers, a variety of insects, and most importantly, over 300 kinds of fruit. Termites and ants are also part of their diet and a source of protein, and to obtain minerals, they sometimes eat soil. Mothers teach their babies what food to eat, and which trees to find it, and in what season. Orangutans have a habit of eating fruit while cruising from one tree to another, snacking on the way during their explorations. In this way, they help the regeneration of rainforest vegetation by spreading seeds far from parent trees. It's thought that orangutans must have a very complex mind map of the forest and detailed knowledge of the fruiting cycles of many species of trees. This prevents wasting valuable energy randomly searching for fruit trees and traveling to a certain fruiting tree whose fruits will not be ripened for some time. Babies must eventually know hundreds of species of plants and trees, which ones are edible, and how to process them, as some are very difficult to eat.
Orangutans live exclusively in Sumatra and Borneo in Southeast Asia, and it is the only gray ape found outside of Africa. They are now critically endangered.
The taxonomy of the orangutan includes the kingdom Animalia, the phylum Chordata, the family Hominidae, and the scientific name Pongo pygmaeus abeli. Some fun facts include that orangutans have an enormous arm span. A male may stretch his arms some 7 feet from fingertip to fingertip, a reach considerably longer than his standing height of about 5 feet. When orangutans do stand, their hands nearly touch the ground. Orangutans are the largest arboreal animal on the planet. Most of their lives are spent in the trees, where orangutans travel from branch to branch by climbing, clambering, and brachiating.
Orangutans are unique in the ape world. One of the 4 kinds of gray apes, gorillas, chimpanzees, bonobos, and orangutans. Only the orangutan comes from Asia. The others all come from Africa. Orangutan means man of the forest in Malay language. Before we conducted our experiment, we caught up with a professional orangutan zookeeper. Wow. Okay, and what's the most interesting fact that you have?
Just the fact that they have really good personalities.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's just awesome how they can think through things. Especially with the enrichment we give them, we try to make it as hard as we can, and they can figure it out so quickly. And just have a great
What's the difference between how they live here and how they live in the wild?
A lot of it has to do with the social structure between the zoos and the wild, because males are usually solitary, so they'll just kind of travel from finding group to group of females, and then they'll mate, and then they'll kind of move on. And then females kind of say that they stick together with their young. And once their young grows up, then they'll kind of get their own group and stuff like that. So.
Okay. What do they make their nests of? Like, how do they sleep?
Like in zoos or wild?
In the zoo.
Zoos, we give them a bunch of blankets every night, and then we'll also on certain days we'll give them straw and hay and some wood wool and things like that to make their nest out of, and it's usually just kind of a big circle. They'll kind of fluff it up.
Yeah.
And play in that.
Yeah. Okay. So we noticed that the baby was peed in the dad's mouth. Is that normal?
Oh. Well, I mean, sometimes. Yeah, they do. I will say, yeah, they do. Sometimes, like, they'll tear off the rubber in the ropes out there, and then they'll eat it, and then they'll poop it out and go through it again.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So yeah, they can be kind of gross at times.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Thank you. That's all we have.
As a refresher, our ethology question is, how does the activity of the male and female Sumatran orangutan differ throughout the day? Our hypothesis is that the male orangutan will increase its activity throughout the day compared to the female orangutan.
In order to conduct our procedure, we will need 2 stopwatches. We will also need 1 piece of paper, which will have the data table for the male orangutan and the data table for the female orangutan. Our goal is to track 1 male and 1 female orangutan's activity throughout different time periods of the day.
Brooklyn will be keeping track of the male orangutan's active and sedentary activity, and I will be keeping track of the female orangutan's active and sedentary activity. Each of us will have 1 stopwatch and a piece of paper that has the corresponding data table according to the gender of the orangutan. The data table will include the 3 time periods throughout the day in columns for active and sedentary activity. We will be doing 3 different 30-minute observation sessions. The first from 9:15 a.m. to 9:45 a.m., the second from 11 a.m. to 11:30 a.m., and the final one from 1 p.m. to 1:30 p.m.
Each of these 30-minute intervals, each person will keep track of their assigned orangutan. For example, I will be keeping track of the male orangutan's activity time. So that when the orangutan is actively moving, swinging through the trees, walking, searching for food, building a nest, and interacting with people, I will use the stopwatch to time that active activity. When the orangutan is sedentary, sleeping and eating, I will pause the active stopwatch until the orangutan starts being active again. This will remain the same throughout the entire 30 minutes, and Cora will be doing the same procedure with the female orangutan.
After each of the 30-minute intervals, we will subtract the number of active minutes, the number on our stopwatch, from the total 30 minutes. The result will give us the total sedentary activity. We will each record the number of active and sedentary minutes of the male and female orangutan in each of our data tables.
We'll use the same procedure for all 30-minute time intervals, and we'll keep track of everything the same way in our data tables. At the end of collecting our data, we will be able to compare the male and female Sumatran orangutan activity and how the activity differed throughout the day compared to one another.
After conducting our experiment, we were able to prove our hypothesis false because the female orangutan increased its activity time much more than the male orangutan did throughout the day.
In the female orangutan's data table, the active time steadily decreased and the sedentary time increased. In the male orangutan's data table, the active time also steadily decreases and the sedentary time increases.
From our data, we were able to complete a graph that shows our information. As you can see, the red line is the female orangutan and the blue line is the male orangutan. In this graph, it shows the activity time, so it is very obvious that the male decreased its activity much faster than it did the female orangutan. In this graph, we show the sedentary time. Again, the blue line is the male and the red line is the female. It is very obvious that the male increased its sedentary time much more than the female did. Therefore, the female increased its activity time much more than the male did throughout the day.
In conclusion, our data from our activity tables and our graphs proved our hypothesis wrong because both the male and female orangutans decreased their activity time throughout the day, but the male decreased its activity time more than the female did.
As a review, we observed and collected data from a male and female orangutan in order to conduct an experiment to answer the question of how does the activity of a male and female orangutan differ throughout the day. We used 2 stopwatches to track the activity of each orangutan in 3 30-minute time periods. We recorded our data and concluded from that the male decreased its activity time much more than the female did.
A few of the sources of error that we experienced were 1. When observing the orangutans at the zoo, sometimes they would climb up into a portion of the exhibit where we could not see. This did not happen very much, but it did happen a couple of times, so we did not know if the orangutans were active. We counted these as non-active times. In future studies, this could be corrected by getting access to the windows behind the exhibit so that the tall areas could be seen. Another source of error would be when we used our phones as stopwatches and we kept having to transition from the camera to the clock. This could have interrupted the exact keeping of the active time. The solution to this in future studies would be to use separate stopwatches.
Some questions that arose were, why did the baby orangutan pee in its dad's mouth? This could be researched in the future by getting more information from different zookeepers. Also, we wondered why the non-mother female was not interactive with the other orangutans at all. This could be researched in the future by getting more information on the hybrid orangutan, since the orangutan was a hybrid between Sumatran and Bornean. Lastly, we wondered if the reason that the orangutans decreased their activity time during the day was because they were fed in the morning where they were most active. This could be researched in the future by doing a study on the activity of the orangutans during their feeding times and their non-feeding times.
Our new investigation idea would be to observe how much time the baby orangutan spends with its mother compared to its father. Our hypothesis is that we think that the baby will spend more time with its mother than its father. We would use the same timing method with the stopwatches by determining the time spent with the mother on one stopwatch and the father on another. We would then record the data in a table that contains 3 30-minute time intervals and compare the data. This data would be useful to others because it would provide more information to researchers who are seeking to understand the relationship between parent and baby orangutans.
Hey! On the videos? You should be. Maybe not on the front camera. Ow! Why is that pointy? Pointy. Okay. Okay. Oh God, how cool. Okay. How are you gonna get on? Ow! Ow! Stretch his arms some 7 feet from fingertip to fingertip. Enrich considerably. Enrich and considerably.